Well, it only took 3 episodes, but Taron Egerton's finally transformed into a hardened criminal. He's finally pulling off the look. He's still afraid, like he can crack at any minute, but he looks the part. Let's recap episode 3 of Blackbird. So Jimmy gets transferred to a medicated unit and is prescribed antidepressants, which he has to take. This way, he's less likely to get shanked by the gangs. One of the inmates tumbles right in front of Jimmy, bleeding out from his gut, and he steps right over him. He can't blow his cover. Another inmate castrates himself. They're either deranged or want to get out of gin pop and into the infirmary where it's safer and there's more access to prescriptions. So we see that Jimmy is acclimating to his new life and his new prison. Meanwhile, Agent McCauley and Detective Miller join forces. They're rifling through case files and trying to find something that will stick on Larry Hall, because remember, he's been granted an appeal and will be released soon if all this goes through, if they don't find something that will stick. So, and they've got to find it fast. Back in prison, Jimmy moves in on Larry, but he's ignored for a while. Larry doesn't trust him. He's new and wonders why he's trying to get his attention. Jimmy comes on a little too strong, a little too aggressive, and a little too soon, but eventually he gains Larry's trust. Now Jimmy's dad, Big Jim Keene, visits him, but flashes his badge to get special treatment, which gives Jimmy special privileges, which kind of puts a red dot on his head. Ray Liotta, let me just take a second out right now. Ray Liotta is so good in this series. I am so certain that he will be nominated posthumously for an Emmy, because he is putting in work in this role. I mean, he's so convincing, so good in this role. Now, Big Jim Keene is retired, but he was a cop for, I believe, 25 years. So he flashed his badge there, and again, they gave him special privilege. But he had to see his son, and he even moves close to the prison so that he can see him more often, because in, I believe, last episode, he suffered a stroke. And this is his first time seeing his son since he had the stroke and since his son has been transferred. Now, Jimmy is happy to see him, but again, he's hot now because he's a cop's son. Again, Big Jim moves close to the prison so that he can see his son more often. Jimmy's clocked by one of the crooked guards, one of the crooked guards named Carter, who bribes Jimmy for $10,000 or he'll drop a dime on him. He'll rat him out to the other inmates, which could get him killed. Carter also introduces Jimmy to an Italian-made man serving life. His name is Mr. Chicante. Jimmy shows him the ultimate respect, and Mr. Chicante takes Jimmy under his wing because they want all of the Italians in the Italian gang in prison. But first, he makes Jimmy pass the initiation. Now, Jimmy pleads with his dad to go search his house. He had stored some rainy day kilos of cocaine in the speakers in his house. And so he asks his dad to go check them so that he can move this inside the prison And he assures his dad that ATF and DEA would never have been able to find them when they ransacked his house before his arrest. Later, Jimmy follows Larry into the TV room. At this point, he's stalking him. One of the inmates comes in there, bum rushes, crashes, and changes the channel, but Larry doesn't speak up for himself. He's upset, but he doesn't say anything, so Jimmy takes the initiative and cracks the inmate across the head. I mean, beats him to a pulp, which gets Jimmy thrown into solitary confinement for a day. And then when he gets out a day later, Larry lets down his guard and opens up to Jimmy. So it worked. Now Carter corners Jimmy, pulls him aside in one of the cells, and tells him that he needs that $10,000. He threatens Jimmy's life. He threatens to dime him out if he doesn't come up with the $10,000. So he has the guard has a red dot on his head. He needs to pay off somebody in this prison. We don't know who at this point, but we do see him with bruises across his face, and he says they just cracked his jaw or something so that he could come to work, but it was a message that was sent. It's so weird, this scene, because it's only a couple of cells away and they're not whispering, so Larry might have overheard this conversation, but he does not appear to have heard, but it seems like he would have. I know the block is loud, but it was only a couple cells away, but there's no indication that he overheard this conversation, because if he did, that would blow up this whole operation. So the next day, Big Jim returns for another visit. We learn that he was a crooked cop and sold a few kilos on the side to make extra money. And Jimmy hid kilos of cocaine for a rainy day, as we learned from an earlier scene. But Big Jim tells Jimmy that his best friend Danny robbed him when he stayed at his house not too long ago. He stole the other kilos, which puts Jimmy in a bind. Jimmy could get killed over this. He needs to come up with this money or product. He's trying to move this in the prison so that he can pay hush money to Carter, the guard. But Jimmy finesses his way into buying more time with Carter. He tells Carter what he's planning. And if Big Jim can get his hands on a kilo, because he can't get the 10,000, but if he can get his hands on a kilo, Jimmy can sell it and pay off this bribe. Now, meanwhile, Agent McCauley and Detective Miller visit one of the investigators who was point on the Raina Ricin case. Cops had her boyfriend in custody but let him go because they didn't have enough evidence on him. This scene is not only pivotal, but it is so powerful. Like, you're left questioning whether or not Larry Hall killed Raina Ricin. But there are subsequent scenes that confirm to me that he undoubtedly killed at least 18 people. But this scene is so powerful because the investigator that McCauley and Miller visit, I mean, he is convincing and compelling, and he sets them straight. I love this scene. So Larry confessed to her murder. Even though the investigators, the detectives, found evidence in Larry's van, they think he planted it for attention. And since Larry had an airtight alibi, like he was at a Civil War reenactment in Ohio, like hundreds of miles away, this investigator claims, they let him go. And after ricin, he kills more victims. But again, he was in Ohio at the time of Ricin's disappearance and murder, and there are witnesses that attest to this. Again, he's very compelling. Throws a wrench in their whole case because they are looking for an angle so that they can make sure Larry Hall doesn't get out on appeal. Completely shuts down their theory that Larry is the culprit. And even Agent Macaulay second guesses herself. Maybe Larry didn't do it, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough that he did it. And my theory is that he didn't do it alone. I'm side-eyeing his twin brother, Gary. Remember, Larry has a twin brother named Gary, and he's looking very, very sus. Now later, Jimmy and Larry have an uncomfortable conversation about violating women. It's very unsettling. He's slowly confessing, and his behavior again is very, very unsettling. Paul is killing this role. Like, he is really convincing. If I didn't know any better, I would think he was the serial killer. Like, he is really inhabiting Larry Hall. Again, he's a serial confessor and kind of implicates his brother Gary. I think they're both in cahoots. Jimmy's running out of time. He's got to get info from Larry, and he's got to get it fast, or he's going back to prison and serve out the remainder of his 10 years. Later, Detective Macaulay looks completely different when she visits Jimmy as his girlfriend so that she can get into this prison and get some information from him. She can't visit him the way she did when he was at the other prison. She tells Jimmy that they're hitting dead ends, roadblocks on the outside. She tells Jimmy he's got to work harder and faster because they are running out of time and running out of angles and running out of evidence to pin all of these murders on Larry. And she seems to be doubting her entire case. It's looking like Jimmy's going to die in this prison, and he tells her, I may die. And she says she'll try to get him transferred, but she doesn't know when. Meanwhile, Larry could be out on the streets killing more girls. There were lots of stakes in this episode, and a lot of questions I have that I hope will be answered in the next episode, in episode 4. But this series is heating up. I am so invested. Are you watching? I mean, I am invested in this series. It's so good. It's so entertaining. Episode 4 drops on July 22nd. Are you watching Blackbird on Apple TV Plus? It's good. Like, everybody is bringing it in this series. Thank you so much for watching this recap of Blackbird with me. And please join me next week when I recap and break down episode 4. Until next time, peace.